So you've heard how amazing and effective mindfulness is, but it sounds intimidating. Worry not. There are simple and sustainable ways to add mindfulness practices to your life and reap real benefits. You don't even need a meditation rug. Welcome back to Savvy Psychologist. I'm your host, Dr. Jade Wu. Every week, I'll help you meet life's challenges with evidence-based research, a sympathetic ear, and zero judgment. Today, let's talk about how to do mindfulness in your daily life and how to avoid some of the common stumbling blocks and barriers that get in the way. So what are you doing right in this moment as you're listening to this podcast? Are you doing chores like folding laundry? Are you maybe eating or driving? Or are you maybe scrolling on your phone playing a game? If you had to make an estimate, what percentage of your attention are you giving to that task? Now let's think in general. When was the last time you were 100% focused on the one thing you were doing? Now you might think that just because driving is the only thing you're doing, you're not talking on the phone, not texting, you must be giving it all of your attention, right? Or maybe at least 90% of it, because we have to allow for a little bit of normal mind wandering. But ask yourself, what types of trees are there in your neighborhood? Have you been noticing? When you fold laundry, what do the sheets smell like? And don't cheat by saying, like fresh laundry, obviously. When was the last time you truly and fully experienced that smell? Not just with the general sense that it's nice, but with all of your awareness invested in that experience. That focusing of your awareness is called mindfulness. Last week, we talked about what mindfulness can and cannot do. Practicing mindfulness can improve your well-being and performance, for example. It can decrease stress and pain, and it can help you to be more connected with yourself and with your surroundings. But that doesn't mean you can use mindfulness as a band-aid in a moment of crisis. It's a philosophy, not a tool. It cannot cure all of your ills, and it cannot replace standard medical treatments. Well, this week, let's talk about how we can incorporate mindfulness into our daily lives in a way that's feasible and sustainable. Because mindfulness should not be a crash diet. It's a lifelong relationship with yourself and with the world around you. So whether you've been working on mindfulness for a while or you're a total newbie to the whole idea, these tips today might help. So tip number 1 is to practice mindfulness in your regular daily activities. One of the biggest hesitations I hear about mindfulness is that people are too busy to practice it. And I totally get that. As someone who has a job, side hustles, and a baby, it's hard to imagine setting aside even 20 minutes to do absolutely nothing. But here's the beauty of mindfulness. It's not at all about doing nothing. And in fact, it's the opposite. Mindfulness means to fully focus on doing whatever you're doing, to be right here, right now. So if you're eating breakfast, you can start your day with mindfulness by being 100% with your breakfast. Notice how everything smells. Savor the taste. Feel the texture and weight of the apple or the glass of orange juice. Watch the steam rise from your coffee. Try this tomorrow morning, maybe, even for just 5 minutes during your breakfast, without watching or listening to the news or inviting any other distractions. Well, what if you can't help having distractions in your daily life, like having noisy neighbors, young kids in the house, or just your body is uncomfortable or in pain? That's okay. Your mindfulness practice will simply include these experiences without judgment. Gently walk your attention through the discomforts and pain in your body and just allow them to sit quietly in your body. Let yourself hear that leaf blower. Breathe in to the sound of your kids fighting. Your only job during a mindful experience is to experience it. All right, now that we're incorporating mindfulness into regular daily activities, it's also important to know that mindfulness should not just be practiced when things are stressful or painful. So, one other thing I often hear from people is that mindfulness doesn't work for them. When I probe a little bit further, what people usually describe is this. They download a meditation app or find some guided meditation audio online. Then they wait for themselves to feel stressed out or have trouble falling asleep or have a pain flare up, at which point they whip out the meditation app and try to use it to solve that problem. Now, there's nothing wrong with formally practicing mindfulness when things don't feel good. But if you only ever try it when you're in the midst of a mini crisis, it would be like learning to ride a bike during an earthquake. Mindfulness is not an easy skill. To develop it, you have to practice regularly. And just like with any skill, you need to start with baby steps. To get started, try doing a daily 5-minute mindful breathing meditation and also paying full attention to one meal per day. Before you even realize it, your mindfulness muscle memory will help you stay grounded in times of stress. But if you don't get it right away, don't be discouraged. And that's tip number 3. Make sure to be patient with yourself. Rome wasn't built in a day, and enlightenment can't be reached in a week. Learning to be mindful can be like learning to write with your left hand if you're a righty. In our hustle and bustle world, we're constantly distracted, forced to multitask, and encouraged to push away difficult feelings. Now, that's some difficult programming to overcome. So, don't get down on yourself if mindfulness is hard. You'll likely find your mind wandering when you do a formal mindfulness meditation. That's okay. At least half the point of mindfulness is to be non-judgmental. So don't judge your brain for getting distracted or bored or frustrated. Just allow your thoughts to come and go at their own pace, and then gently bring your attention back to your breath or to something else in the here and now. Now, the next important tip is to remember that the goal is not necessarily to feel better in the moment. You may be thinking, well, okay, it's all well and good to be grounded in the present moment, but what if the present moment sucks? Often, we expect that mindfulness practice will make us feel better, calmer, more comfortable, more sleepy. But when we take away distractions and tune into the here and now, we suddenly want to cry or even feel panicky. That is okay. In fact, it means you're doing it right. The goal of being mindful isn't to tune out bad feelings or make good ones. It's the opposite. It's to authentically get in touch with whatever is going on. Now you may be wondering, well, why would I want to do that if what's going on feels awful? Well, the thing about negative emotions and uncomfortable feelings is that they cannot be swept under the rug. If you're anxious or angry or in pain, you might be able to temporarily shove those feelings down, but eventually they come out one way or the other. You end up lashing out at someone you care about, or you can't stop doubting your own decisions, or you have gastrointestinal problems. The body and mind will find a way to express your feelings. The wonder of mindfulness is that it helps you to be in touch with your experiences in real time. That not only prevents your mental and physical pressure cooker from exploding, it also sets you up to feel more fulfilled in life. All that energy you would be spending on suppressing bad feelings would be spent on, well, living. And the last tip, but not the least, certainly, is to take notice of unusual side effects. So we've talked about all the good that mindfulness can do and all the ways in which it can help you to connect with yourself with the present moment. But it's also worth knowing that there are rare instances of unusual and damaging side effects of practicing mindfulness. Health researchers refer to these as adverse events. Some documented cases have included panic attacks or severe depression, out-of-body experiences, manic symptoms, trauma flashbacks, or even psychotic symptoms during mindfulness practice. However, I should point out that most of these published cases involve very intense meditation practices, like week-long transcendental meditation retreats where participants are meditating on mantras for hours on end. And there is actually some debate about whether this is even the same thing as mindfulness. But in any case, this type of meditation goes far beyond what day-to-day mindfulness looks like. So far, I have not found any reports of adverse events from simply using your five senses to ground yourself to the present moment. But if you have a psychotic spectrum disorder like schizophrenia, or you have bipolar disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, it may be wise to practice this less intense form of mindfulness instead of going to prolonged meditation. Or if you're interested in meditation, learn to do it under the guidance of a mental health provider. And just a special note about trauma and PTSD, sometimes people with a trauma history have flashbacks during a mindfulness practice because, well, for the first time in a long while, they're letting go of their mind's iron clasp on avoiding that memory. This doesn't mean mindfulness is bad for you overall. It just means you have a lot of bottled up pain. So find a trained trauma therapist to help you to loosen this bottle cap and release some of that pressure, perhaps with some gentle mindfulness along with evidence-based trauma treatment. And with that, we'll wrap up our little mindfulness mini-series, and I thank you very much for listening. Do tell me how your mindfulness practice goes. I want to hear all about your daily activities that you've been doing mindfully or ways that you found to incorporate mindfulness into your life. Let's continue that conversation on social media. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter. I'm at JadeWoo PhD. I'm also at QDT Savvy Psych. We can also keep in touch with the Savvy Psychologist newsletter, which delivers psychology tips straight to your inbox. Savvy Psychologist is audio engineered by Steve Rickyberg and edited by Karen Hertzberg. As always, Savvy Psychologist is strictly for informational purposes and does not substitute for mental health care from a licensed professional. Thank you again so much for joining me. I wish you happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you stay well and safe during this time, and I'll see you next week for a happier and healthier mind.